What's going on, everyone? It's the Canvas Café. I'm Matthew Dyer, and today joining us we have an eclectic singer-songwriter who I've known for about 3 or 4 years now. And we've been meaning to collaborate for a minute, and we finally have the opportunity to do so later on today. She's multi-talented. She's also an actor and an acting coach. So I'm very pleased to welcome Musisi. Did I get it right?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
Cool. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Yeah?
How are you?
Good. All good. Right. So let's get straight in. I've known you, as I said, for about 3 or 4 years, but I actually don't know much about your background. Mm-hmm. And I know it's quite an interesting background with a very diverse upbringing. So let's start there. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Okay, I was born in Bradford, so I'm a Yorkshire girl.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
The accent didn't stick because my family and I moved every 2 years.
Right.
So I grew up in Central Asia, Eastern Europe, and Eastern Southern Africa.
Okay.
Yeah, and I watched a lot of Nickelodeon and Disney, and I was like obsessed with having an American accent.
Right.
And I wanted to stand out, especially when I was living in South Africa, and I wanted to make friends. I wanted to do so being different. I still ended up getting a couple South African inflections in my accent, especially when I'm more relaxed, which I am now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my background.
Cool. And your parents are from?
We're from Uganda.
Uganda, okay.
Yes,
right.
yeah.
But you're telling me they live in Tanzania at the moment?
They live in Tanzania.
So very interesting background, okay.
Thank you.
So would you say, well, actually, before I get into the next question, when did you start getting into music?
When I was 15 years old,
Yeah.
My dad had a guitar that I wasn't allowed to touch for ages.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was going through my growing pains, picking it up and feeling like it was my only like real outlet to express myself properly, to really be able to say what I wanted to say. Funny side note, I remember going to my dad one day and singing a song about how I wanted to run away.
Yeah.
And his response was like, and he listened very nicely, and then he goes, "If you run away, I will find you and I'll bring you back home."
Sounds like Taken.
And I was like, right. I just pick up my guitar and I had to go back to my room.
Yeah.
And that was the end of that. I never ran away. I just wouldn't have wanted to risk it, to be honest.
So would you say that the background that you've had has influenced your music style? Because I can't pinpoint an exact style, but that's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. It's because obviously you had such a diverse upbringing. So
I think so. I've always been attracted to choral music and music where the chord progression kind of like hits you in your gut. Mm-hmm. And when I play stuff by myself, I like noticed that, what maybe musically, literate people would say, or minor keys. I like the darker sounds. I think it's also because I didn't often feel afforded to openly express my more difficult feelings. And so if I can feel it from sound, then it's like you feel satisfied in that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Have I answered your question?
Yeah,
okay,
no,
great.
yeah. It's interesting because when I first got to know you, I just knew you as an actor. Singing, I mean, you mentioned that you sang a little bit, but I didn't know you were so deeply connected to the music. So would you say that's more of the passion?
Music has always been my number one, but it's always been my biggest fear.
Okay.
To fail at it or to not be seen as
because it means
good
that
enough.
much to you.
Yeah. And I was really confident when I was a teenager. I was also really angry, which helps. And that's kind of what pushed me on stage. I didn't have any fear. Because this is just what I needed to do.
Yeah.
I got to around 18, moved to the UK for university, and where the industry is so oversaturated in the city, so like everyone wants to be a star, whatever industry that you're working in. I just felt like I kind of got lost in it all, and I didn't know, like, who would this music be for? Who would relate to it? Is it important still that I'm making music to relate to people who've experienced things that I've experienced too?
Yeah.
So all those questions were running around in my mind, and I just kind of like stopped. Also had a few heartbreaks trying to collaborate with people. Right. It took quite a lot of time for me to become confident, to socialize and engage in that way. When you're not like classically trained, I did everything like I was self-taught. You also don't want to seem like an idiot in front of people who understand and got it. But actually, you want the people in the room with you to all be better because that's the only way that you learn, and you have to step up to the plate.
So sorry to cut you, is that where the creative energy then led to the acting?
Yeah. I mean, I have African parents and they were like, business. And I was like, I don't think I can do that. So I remember I went into their room one day and I was like, guys, just bear with. Please let me do acting because this is what I feel like I'm good at.
Right.
I'm shining here. I was always helping out with choreography or direction, and it was another outlet.
Yeah.
But I think that what was interesting about acting was that it was a different person, another face. Mm-hmm. Not that I could necessarily hide behind, or maybe I should just be honest and say hide behind that. And I was very good at like presenting what I wanted people to see of me. Mm-hmm. I think it just, when you move around a lot, you want to make a good impression. You know what, you can sense, okay, the person liked it when I said this or I did that. Okay, they felt more comfortable like this. So if I present like this, then I will be able to navigate a space a little easier. Mm.
And you've written, have you written your own short film, or is it just directing?
Yeah,
I say just, it's still a big deal.
I wrote my own short film when I was in my master's program in 2018. And that was huge because I never, ever thought I'd be a screenwriter. Yeah. I never thought I'd be a director. I was just like, I want to be a superstar. Someone be my agent, tell me what to do, and let me make these pieces. Like, that was the plan. But I think what I learned along the way was that, like, you need to be in control of your future, your career. You need to be in a leadership position so that people can't just take you around the merry-go-round any way they want. Yeah. And that you can present yourself the way you want to be seen and stand up for what you want to stand up for without people censoring that.
All right. Okay. And just going back to the music now, when I was, we've got 2 songs that you're going to perform later on. What struck me is the maturity of the songwriting, and I don't mean that in a patronizing way, but you wrote these songs at quite a young age. Mm-hmm. So let's start with I'll Wait. Tell us more about that song.
So I'll Wait I wrote when I was 19, and I was this really, like, I don't know, stroppy, like, late teen who, you know, who'd never had like a boyfriend and wanted so much to feel love that, you know, whether you see it on movies or you see your peers or even my parents who, you know, they've made it 30 years. But it just never felt like I'd met a person who resonated with me and vice versa. And what I was learning, or the I don't want to say rhetoric, but what people were saying to console me was that, you know, like, God will bring you the right partner. You know, if you take the wrong step forward, you will fall and it will be worse. So I kind of wrote this to try and reconcile with all my feelings about all of it. And I was like, when I finished writing, and I was like, this is. I was like,
it sounds like a much older person with a lot of wisdom. You know? Yeah. Would you also attribute that to the fact that you have grown up in loads of different cultures and you've had to kind of grow up fast? You've observed a lot and, you know, absorbed a lot as well.
Yeah, I do think so. And I'm always really curious, and I always want to have an answer for something, or to understand why someone behaves a certain way, or why people believe what they believe. And the conclusions I kind of drew were in the song. So a boy is a kick in the heart and a punch in the throat, because there wasn't consolation in that way. Or
those are lyrics to the song, by the way.
Or a girl is a promise that's broken, a beauty that's sold, which is true, because what is your role as a woman in your respective society? That's what I was questioning. And, you know, what I'd learned about pleasure and desire and all these things that at that age, actually, I hadn't been able to access the way I do now that I'm adult. I felt like then I had a sense for what I was looking for, but I hadn't been able to explore it. But I still managed to put it down on paper somehow.
And do you still agree with everything you wrote back then, with the younger you?
I believe that the world can be seen in that way. I don't necessarily think that my experience reflects it wholly, because I think that as I've grown older, I've prove to myself that I can expand further than those constraints.
Yeah.
But to do that, I had to put myself in a position to want to be the author of my own narrative.
And who would you say are your main influences?
Ooh, child. You know, I'll start with the beginning. Because when I started writing music, actually, I was into a lot of rock and country. Fall Out Boy, One Republic.
Yeah.
You know, I also listened to Alicia Keys. I loved Beyonce's ballads, you know, from like her I Am Sasha Fierce album, and I still worship Beyonce.
Yeah.
And I loved the Soweto Gospel Choir, and most recently,
It's very varied. Yeah, all those examples.
Most recently, Suzanne Sunfor.
Okay.
I honestly listen to music depending on how I'm feeling. I'm trying to think of who else was there. Terrence Trent D'Arby. Tracy Chapman.
Yep. Well, yeah, it's funny you say that because I mentioned that to some of my friends earlier, because I was saying that you remind me of her, and particularly the songs that you're going to perform later on. That's the vibe I was getting. But that isn't just you. There's so much more, as you've just said. So yeah, it's very, very interesting, the background. So what's the future plans? What do you want to do with the music? What's your projects looking like?
I just want to be able to do more, to make more, and to be able to express myself in this way.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very vulnerable, but it's also protection, because even some of my friends or people that know me haven't all seen this part of me. It's one thing to record a song in the studio, put it out, even make a music video, but for someone to see you singing live, that's like your soul.
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, I only knew you as an actor at first. And then when you sent me the two songs, the demo songs to what you're going to perform later, I was like, because you sent me that a while back. I was like, okay, this girl can sing. Like, like sing. It wasn't just a hobby. It was like, okay, like, yeah, this is deep, really deep. So I was very, very impressed with that.
Thank you.
So just going back to the filming side of things. So are you going to do any more films, any more acting, anything like that?
I'd like to. I decided not to go the traditional route of auditioning and stuff like that because I found it so demoralizing and stressful. And again, it kind of led me on a path of like, I'm going to screenwrite. I'm going to make my own stuff.
Right.
And create opportunities for me to be able to be a performer the way I want to be a performer. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm developing screenplays.
And coaching as well.
And I'm coaching, which I love. Also didn't expect that I'd ever be doing that.
Yeah.
And I feel very privileged to be able to do the things that I love in the diverse ways I'm able to do it.
Okay. And the second song that you're going to perform is called Smile.
Yes.
Tell us more about that song.
Smile I wrote when I was 16. And I think it was just, I wanted to make something playful and sweet and soft.
Yeah.
And I think in my career, the person I've become, I don't often feel like I've been afforded to navigate in that way. So it's so nice to actually come back to it when I'm older and go, oh, actually, this is okay. This is good.
It's a very happy song.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I also wanted to come across as, I wanted to give off the energy that there's like an effortlessness, a playfulness, but it also comes from the lack of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably they're both really good, but I think Smile is, my favorite. I really like that song. It's a good vibe. So just going back to the early days then. So you mentioned your background. So where's all the places that you've actually lived? There's some very interesting ones. Yeah.
So Mongolia,
Yeah.
Kyrgyzstan, Slovakia, Ethiopia, South Africa, Kenya, New York, Moldova, which is between Ukraine and Romania. Don't quote me.
And you picked
Yeah.
up some of the languages as well. Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I used to speak Russian fluently as a kid, but I lost it because I didn't have anyone to speak to anymore. I can still read it, though, which is really, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I studied French, mostly picked up the swear words that my teacher would throw at us. But there's bits and bobs, you know, Le Pain. Can order bread. Yeah, and it's interesting. I ended up learning Afrikaans for a little bit, but then also had like German classes when I was living in South Africa. So at the moment, I've got pieces and words from different languages always swimming in my brain, even if I can't like construct a sentence.
Yeah. And what would you say is the best country or experience you've had? You've been here the longest, right?
I've been here the longest,
But out of all of those, what's been...
but London was the ghetto. So I don't think there was a best, because I appreciate that it was a privilege that I was able to travel like that.
And experience all those different cultures, And
all of it just made me the person that I was. I did really like boarding school, though. So I had 2 years in Kenya, the last 2 years of high school. And it's just fields, and the clouds are so close to, you know, the earth, it feels like. And you can run around, there's fresh air. And it was my first kind of like feel for independence. And I made some lifelong friends there as well.
Okay.
But everywhere has definitely contributed so much.
Absolutely. Right, so we're going to do the performances in a bit. So it's been a pleasure, you know, you speak with me today. So look forward to doing more collaborations, hopefully.
Yeah.
And so, good luck with the future.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me.
No worries at all. So you've been watching the Canvas Café. I'm Matthew Dyer. This is Musisi. We out.